EQ. I know it's confusing, but I can tell you one thing. If your EQ curve looks more like an Etch-a-Sketch, you're probably doing it wrong. So let's find out how to fix that. Hey guys, Dilby here. Welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to try and demystify EQ. It's one of the absolute fundamental production tools, but something that I think is a bit misunderstood. In my opinion, it's something that should be subtle and used as a delicate fine-tuning tool. The problem with this, especially for beginners, is that your ears aren't trained to hear the subtle differences, and this is just something that takes time to develop. So what I'm going to show you today is a few easy starting point techniques that can help you to train your ears and help you to use EQ in a less heavy-handed way. That's going to help you to create that subtle balance and give that extra little polish to your tracks. If you like the track that's playing at the moment, it's a new one of mine. It's a collaboration with Albuquerque, amazing producer from Brazil, and it's out now on Chus's label, Stereo Productions. Link in the description if you want to go and grab a copy. Your support is much appreciated. As always, the project files for this video are available from Patreon, link in the description. Patreon's one of the best ways that you can support the channel and make sure I keep bringing you the videos every week. Now let's just get into Ableton and get this thing going. Alright guys, so here we are inside Ableton, and this is a little project that I've put together to demonstrate some EQing techniques. Try to simplify and demystify them a bit. Actually, this isn't a project I put together for this. This is a sketch of mine. This was potentially going to be a track that I released or finished, but I just decided to repurpose it for this and kind of remade some of the elements and using Ableton devices so that it works for everyone. You can download that from the link in the description, goes to Patreon. There you can get all the project files for everything, you know. But yeah, it's not in the style of any particular artist or whatever. It's in the style of me, I suppose. Let's just take a quick listen to what we're working with. So a cool little deep tech house thing. I don't know. I find it difficult to describe my style of music. Anyway, I'm just going to freeze this vocal thing so that it doesn't keep delaying every time I stop the track. But what we've got here is a kick, some claps and snares, some hats and shakers, bass, the synths. We've got this kind of like main riff, which is 2 parts, this chord stab, which does like a question and answer with it, then this dub chord, which is kind of like a turnaround at the end of every 2 bars, a string, which has got this little pitch bendy thing here. On here we've got some portamento, so it kind of glides up and does this like weird pitch bendy type thing. It's pretty cool. Gives it like a nice airy kind of feel. This phase stab, so this is just like a audio sample. And this synth texture, which is just a loop from somewhere. Then the vocal thing, just got some echo on it. If I go to the clip gain, you can see that I've just used the clip gain to mute most of it, and then I'm just kind of playing a couple of little bits and using the echo to kind of throw it and create this atmospheric thing. We've just got a couple of fills and crashes. Yeah, so that's everything in the project. Cool, jump in there, grab it. But what we're talking about today is EQ and how to use it. So basically I'm going to break it down to 3 different EQ techniques. We're going to do your classic low and high cut, but I'm going to show you a way to do that where you can get like better results by listening, and it's a technique for listening and kind of training your ear for it. Then we're going to look at doing some cutting, so cutting away frequencies that we don't want, resonant frequencies, that kind of thing, and how and why you might do that. And then we're going to look at boosting and how and why you might do that. So, cutting, right. This is a contentious subject that I'm always talking about. Let's look at this open hat. So you can see there's actually not too much like low end on this. This is from my sample pack, but I've like EQ'd everything. They're pretty drag and drop. Link up here if you want to go and grab it. The thing that I see a lot, especially with beginner producers or people who are watching a lot of YouTube tutorials basically, is I'll often see hats and stuff cut like this. Because you've got to leave space, you've got to cut out all that low end. That just cuts away all the body and a lot of the character, in my opinion. So I think a cut like this is much better for hats. Let's hear the difference. If I cut it like this and then we just play the drums. You see that hat is filling up a lot more space. It doesn't sound so thin and brittle, which means that you're going to probably need less layers, which means you're going to have, it's going to be easier to mix, you're going to use more control. So that's the first thing, is I don't recommend these like really, really harsh cuts like this. I recommend using more gentle, easy, mellow cuts. It's going to sound more natural. So let's move on to these elements here. So they're playing at the same time, they're layered, right? So we can see by looking at their EQ curves here that they're occupying quite a lot of the same space. We want them to blend together naturally, and by doing that we're going to decide which frequencies we want one layer to occupy and which ones we want the other layer to occupy. We can also see by looking at this wavetable kind of pluck thing that there's quite a lot of low end. So if we look at the bass, also quite a lot of low end. So what I'm going to do is solo the kick and bass. Now we're going to low cut the bass a little bit. What I'm going to do with this is just bring it up until I can hear it, and then probably bring it back a little bit till I can't hear it. So what we're doing is we're just trying to remove some of this low rumble around the kind of 10 to 30 hertz, 40 hertz kind of thing. You can see the fundamental of the bass line is sitting here around 40 hertz. What I'm actually going to do is turn off this spectrum so that we're just listening. So that's much thinner now. I'm cutting away quite a lot of the sub. So if we turn the spectrum analyzer back on, so I was listening to kind of hear when I was removing the rumble, but keeping the main kind of fundamental punch of the bass, and that seemed to be around 30 hertz. And then when we look at the spectrum, we can see that that's exactly what's kind of happened. What we're going to do with the wavetable is add that in. We want to be cutting it away in relation to the bass and the kick, because what we're trying to do is remove these frequencies that could be interfering with the bass and kick. So again, I'm going to turn the spectrum analyzer off, bring this down, and let's go. That's sounding very thin, right? But what I do is I always go too far and then bring it back, and then use the on and off to A-B it, basically. So that sounds quite natural to me. Now, one other thing that I can do is try adjusting this Q value. So what that does is changes how dramatic the slope is. So what I might want to do with a sound like this, because we are taking away quite a bit of the body, if I just solo this, sounds a lot more full without that EQ, right? So what I can do is try bringing this Q value down. So we're having this gentle slope. It kind of rolls off the sub-frequencies, which is going to sound more natural. It's going to let through some more of those low end, but it's going to be more controlled. It's going to make them sound like they're all kind of gelling together and working together rather than like having kick, bass, pluck. So let's listen to those together. Okay, now let's have a look at the analyzer. So we can see by then looking at it, what I'm doing is basically just bringing down the volume of this lowest fundamental so that it doesn't compete so much with the bass, which is sitting at the same fundamental frequency, because everything's playing in E. Now what we're going to do is add in this Wurlitzer, and I'm just going to do these together, right? We can see by looking at the spectrum here that while this is playing mainly an octave up, it's got these kind of harmonics that are also competing with the Wurlitzer. So again, if we just do this, I think you're kind of sounding really disconnected. So that's not what we're going to do. We're going to use our gentle cut. That sounds about right to me. It sounds like they're kind of gelling a bit nicer. Sounding good. So let's have a look at removing some resonant frequencies. What we're going to do is focus on these two layers of this riff. We'll group that, and now we can put an EQ8. So for this technique, what we're going to do is use some of these bell filters, basically make a tight curve like this. And you may have heard this referred to as like seek and destroy. So what we're basically doing is looking for frequencies that are creating harsh resonances. Let's have a listen here. So when I have it around here, you can hear it's like obviously accentuating this note which is being played, but it's creating this like long ringing sound. So I would identify that as something that I might want to cut a little bit. We're looking here to control, not remove. So this is we just want to do this really gently. Now let's see if we can find anything else. So you see there, I just turned this headphones on. Now when I hold this with the mouse, it solos just this band. Decrease the Q a little bit. It's going to open this band up. So there's something there, and then there's something. So this one here to me sounds more problematic. So let's try bringing this down a little. So it sounds a bit smoother without it, but what we're going to do is check it in context with the track. actually do is just solo this, a kick, and the drums. Now we can have a look at that other frequency that I identified, which was around here somewhere. So for me, when I pull that away, it starts to make the sound feel less present. So that would be one that I don't want to remove. It's adding like something positive to the sound, even though it's a resonant frequency. So it's important to remember that this stuff is really subtle. It can take a while to train your ears for this, but it's about control and removing problems, not just doing it for the sake of doing it. Generally, the problems are based on kind of conflicts between different elements, right? So something that really helps to illustrate my point about not all resonant frequencies being bad resonant frequencies is if we look at the 909 open hi-hat. So that's not what I've got here, but let's throw on this 909 core kit and let's move these down to the open hat. Okay, so that's sounding a bit long, so I'm just going to tweak the decay a little bit. I'll just level match that to the other hat. So they're not exactly the same, but we could change the envelope to get it there. This is more to demonstrate the frequencies. So we can see that the body of this sample is more full. And on a 909, I like to control the tops, especially when I've got shakers. Okay, so that's sounding good. I might let through a little bit more body. All right, good. If we were just using our eyes to EQ this, we would go, okay, shit, there's a couple of harsh frequencies here. There's a couple of resonant frequencies, right? Look at those peaks. And I see this on people's projects a lot. Listen to that harshness. Okay, so bam, let's get it. There's another one that we saw. So you hear that whistling sound, let's get rid of it. There's another one here. Frequencies are bad. Right. Get rid of it. So now what we've got is a 909 hi-hat minus the character of a 909 hi-hat, right? If we listen in context. It kind of sounds a lot more bland and dull, right? I'm just going to duplicate this EQ, turn off the bell curves here, and then on this one, I'll turn off the cuts. I'm going to put this behind here, okay? So this way we've got them separated. So that sounds like a 909. That sounds dull and boring to me. So the point of this is to explain that some resonant frequencies are creating character and giving a sound its personality. So it's important to not just cut away everything that's sticking out on your spectrum analyzer. You know, we could use this scale percentage here to kind of control these a little bit if we wanted. Still, even to me, with that small amount of 20% cut, it sounds more bland. It doesn't sound like a 909 anymore. It doesn't have that kind of grit and roughness that a 909 hi-hat has. All right, so now let's have a look at how to boost things. So this is something that I see being done in a way that I wouldn't recommend a lot. So boosting, I think, is something that is easy to overdo, easy to be heavy-handed with. And a lot of the time, the effect that someone's trying to achieve by boosting could be done by just turning up the volume 1 or 2 dB. So what I'm going to try to do here is demonstrate a way to boost purposefully and with control. So we're going to have another look at these two synths that are being layered. So I feel like they've got a really nice bottom end, but they're missing perhaps a little bit of punch. Let's listen to that in context. So there's a possibility we could just try turning that up by a couple of dBs. So to me, when I do that, the low end of the sounds starts to become problematic again. So what I'm going to do is try to boost around this kind of upper mids and highs to give it a bit more presence and character. Now with the boost, we want to do a more gentle curve. When we were cutting, we were trying to really remove certain frequencies. With a boost, we're doing much more broad strokes. So there, that I can hear a kind of bite that comes through. It is giving it this kind of nasally characteristic, but let's bring it back. So you can hear that when I turn it off, the sound actually slips back into the background a little bit. So this is exactly what we're looking for. All right, I think this could also benefit from a high shelf. So what this is going to do is just kind of pick up some of the higher harmonics and some of the bright, sparkly frequencies. You'll notice when we look at the spectrum, these don't actually really exist. So what we're actually doing with this high shelf is kind of like lifting some of these frequencies in here. Let's take a listen. So you can hear there, it starts to have a bit more punch. Now let's try and change the frequency. To me, it's starting to sound a bit more balanced. We could also achieve this potentially by a little bit of a low shelf. So in this case, I think we've controlled the low end pretty well, and this boost is actually working and doing what we want, which means it's the right move here. Let's try it in context with everything else playing. Cool. So again, It's subtle. EQ should be subtle, but to me, it just brings it forward a little bit in the mix in a way that is more kind of controlled and specific, which we weren't achieving with the volume fader. Caveat here, it's always worth trying just by increasing the volume or decreasing the volume before you try EQ, compression, anything else like that. The most important control that you've got in terms of mixing is your volume faders. Try them first. So hopefully that was helpful and gives you like a starting point and a bit of an understanding about what you should and shouldn't be doing. Generally, if you're boosting stuff like this or cutting stuff like this, you're probably doing a lot visually, and in my experience, it generally implies that the sound might just not be right for the track, and your time would be better spent finding something more suitable. As always, you can download the project files from the link in the description. Goes to Patreon. It's one of the best ways you can support the channel. There's these project files and the project files from pretty much all of the videos I do, so jump over there and get stuck in. Alright guys, there you go. I hope that was helpful for you. What do you think? Let me know in the comments. If you've got any EQ tips that you'd like to share, or you've got any questions that you don't quite understand, then drop a comment, or better yet, jump over to the Discord server. There's a lot of knowledgeable producers on there. It's a really amazing community of people helping each other out. So I really suggest you go over there and check it out. If you like this video and you're looking for more videos on mixing, then check out this mixing playlist. There's heaps of gold there. That's it from me today. I'll catch you next time. Peace.